You are listening to the Lawyer Stories podcast with host Benny Gold. Lawyer Stories was founded in July 2017 on Instagram and is an expanding global network of lawyers and law students sharing their personal journeys to the noble profession of the practice of law. Join us on this podcast as we dig deeper into these stories and hear from lawyers and law students from around the world in all areas of the legal profession. Here at Lawyer Stories, we believe that every lawyer has a story. What's yours?
Welcome to the Lawyer Stories podcast with Benny Gold. Today we welcome Travis Meltzer, founding attorney at Valley Injury Law in Phoenix, Arizona. Travis, how are you?
I'm good, Benny. Thanks for having me on this. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, man, I appreciate you. Thanks for coming on. I'm excited to record this episode with you. Sure, it might be a little warmer where you are than where I am here in Massachusetts, but it's all good.
Yeah, no, definitely warmer than Massachusetts, but very cold for me.
Very cold for you. All right, what is it, like 40 to 50 degrees out there?
Oh, yeah. During the day, probably about 50s. Yeah.
That's comfortable.
Terrible.
Terrible. All right. Travis, so where are you from? Are you from Arizona or what?
So, no, originally I'm actually from Las Vegas, Nevada. I'm one of
Okay.
the few local guys there. Grew up there, high school, college, did the whole thing there. Family's still there, actually.
In Las Vegas, like straight up Las Vegas, not like, what's that town? Like Somerville? Like, no, it's
Oh, Summerlin. So, yeah. So, technically, yeah. So, I grew up north of Summerlin.
north of Summerlin, right?
Yeah.
Somerville
So,
is actually a Boston suburb. Sorry about that. All right,
yeah.
so that's cool, man. Like, how far is that from Arizona?
So, 4.5 hours.
All right. I think I looked at that because I went to a wedding in Phoenix probably 3 years ago, and I was like, let me just look at a map here. Like, how far would it take us to get to Las Vegas? Well, obviously, we didn't have time. It was a wedding, but
Oh yeah, plenty of time. Very easy. Did that drive a lot. So
that's amazing. That's amazing. Tell us about when you knew you wanted to be an attorney.
yeah,
Go ahead. Tell us. Just tell us.
yeah, yeah. No, for me, honestly, it's one of those things that people ask all the time. Getting into law school and in your first couple job interviews, it's like, why did you choose this life? And honestly, at first, I wasn't sure. It's one of those things where it's just something that was like, I just wanted to. There's nothing specific. I have no attorney in my family other than an older second or third, fourth cousin kind of thing, but nobody in my direct lineage. But no, it was one of those things where I loved the idea of it. And then once I really got into law school, and then obviously law school is what it is, and it's not the same as being an attorney. Then once I was an attorney, I really felt like it was my best way to kind of help people if I could.
Yeah, for sure. So was it not in? So it wasn't in college or no? Like you or
Yeah, so I think college solidified it.
Okay.
I think I always wanted this idea, or really enjoyed the idea of what an attorney was, but obviously the idea of what an attorney is isn't always the reality. So I interned and worked at a couple law firms, things like that, and that's really where it was solidified.
Gotcha. So this is a little off topic, but I noticed that, and I love this because you're probably I think this makes you a good person. I think as a personal injury attorney, you need this sort of thing. You're a little league coach, man.
Yeah, yeah.
So like I have a 6-year-old son. Like, give me some advice for being a little league coach.
Patience. Honestly, I don't think I had it until I committed to being a little league coach.
Yeah.
I grew up playing baseball. I coached with my dad for,
Cool.
I coached my little brother's team. And then once my oldest son was old enough to play t-ball, I did it. And that was a whole nother level of just, herding cats, 4, 5, 6-year-olds.
Yep.
And so it's just patience. And as long as you show them patience, I feel like they'll listen to you a little bit. And there's, it's a gamble every day.
Yeah,
It's
it
just
takes a really like a good patient person to do that. I tried to help out a little bit with the coaches last year, but anyway, so that was a little bit off.
It's okay.
But I think it all leads to the same thing, right? I mean, I think you need patience with your clients. I think you need compassion. I think you need empathy, and like you have to display all those things as a t-ball coach, and like that really goes into your profession. And once you're working with kids, I think that kind of helps, and it helps develop a little bit. So. Tell me about going to like UNLV. Look, I'm from Maine, so I grew up in Portland, Maine. So we
Okay.
always heard about like UNLV, the running rebels. Like I was back
Yeah.
in the day of like Larry Johnson, and like I actually Googled it today, like because I forgot who was on that team of the running rebels. They made a run, I think, in the Final Four back in the day.
Yeah.
What was it like out there?
For me, it was home, but I loved it. And honestly, going to school at UNLV, it was nice because being a local, you never really go to the strip. So, and UNLV is a block off the strip. I mean, you could walk to the strip from UNLV
Oh
campus.
gosh, that's
So,
crazy.
yeah, no, I mean, it was fun. It was definitely a good time, but it felt like home without having to leave home. So it was one of those things where it felt like I was going away to college, so to speak, without having to actually leave home. Because the
Okay.
strip and where I grew up in Vegas is just a little different. I mean, I grew up in the suburbs outside of Vegas, and
Yeah,
then so it's just a little, I don't know, like an island.
yeah,
So
totally. I've been down there once. I've been like 10 to 14 years ago. I don't know. All right, so that's cool. Like it was a good experience.
yeah.
And so like why personal injury?
Yeah. Yeah. So for me, it was more of it was where I could help people. I mean, honestly, it was just one of those things because I started my career as an insurance defense attorney,
Okay.
um, litigation on that side of things, and I saw what it was to be a defense attorney and kind of what the insurance company's goals were. And I never felt great about what I did. Honestly, it was just about billing and just about protecting the bank, so to speak.
Yep.
And I just, not that I hated what I did, I just never felt great about it.
It's kind
And
of
I kept seeing
minimizing
these,
people, right, too? Like you're minimizing people and their value a little bit.
yep, that's your whole job is
Yeah.
how do I make this very hurt person seem less hurt
Right.
or make it their fault? And so I just never felt great about it. And I'm sitting here watching these hurt people and me having to torture them in a deposition,
Yeah.
which is never something I wanted to do. So after bouncing around a firm or two, I just kind of took the leap into personal injury because I wanted to help that other side. And using the knowledge that I got from
Right.
defense helped a lot.
So how do you, I mean, you just kind of answered it, but how do you think, like being an insurance defense attorney help be a successful personal injury attorney?
Yeah, so beyond just kind of knowing what their expectations are, kind of what they're getting at, also what they're concerned about. And so, when they're concerned about the bottom line ultimately, and that's once it gets to litigation or even when I'm speaking to adjusters or when our firm's speaking to adjusters, we make sure to let them know the cost of pushing this past simply, pre-litigation. And because I
Yeah.
know exactly how much it would cost for them, especially if they farm the case out to outside counsel. So it's helped a lot to see that side of things
Yep.
just when negotiating a case.
Okay. So, excuse me. You work for other firms out of law school for like about 5 years, right? Almost 5 years. When did you know, like, have that feeling it was time to launch your own firm, Valley Injury Law in Phoenix?
Yeah. Yeah. So I think, I always wanted to be a business owner. I've always wanted to do that. My dad, when I grew up, was, entrepreneur, owned his own business. It
Okay.
was just one of the things that I always saw at home. And so when I bounced around, a couple firms and then personal injury firms, and then I kind of left one and I got to see uh, kind of how the whole case has worked. My second personal injury law firm I worked, it wasn't much of a assembly line. It was more of the attorney was involved really in every
Right.
single facet of the case, and I was able to see it from intake to closing. So
Okay.
once I was really able to see that, I felt, you know what, I could do this. I think this is the time. So I just wasn't enjoying doing that for someone else anymore. And I just saw the good and the bad, and I felt like I could do something a little different.
So Travis, you kind of got me there. When you said assembly line, are you saying like there's other personal injury attorneys that kind of they give like a deposition to somebody and then they give like the litigation papers to somebody else and then they make somebody else go to court? Is that kind of how it is?
Yeah, and even before that, before the case even gets to litigation, I mean, there are lots of firms, and I guess I can only speak out of, to here in Arizona and Las Vegas, but there is just one person that touches the case when the person's treating, then the attorney will touch the case and negotiate it. And then if it doesn't work through negotiation, some of those firms will just farm out the case to another firm to file a
Wow.
lawsuit. So we do it all in my firm for that reason.
Okay. Yeah, that's it's All right. I hear a lot of stuff about different methods of like how personal injury cases are handled. I mean, I've talked to enough attorneys now it's pretty interesting. It really is. I mean, there's people who will tell you like they get a case and they're just like they gear up for trial every time, even though it might not go. And there's just people who are like they get the case and they're like, here you go, to
Yep.
somebody else, which is fine too. I mean, hey, just a different model, right?
Yep.
Um,
Yeah, and yeah, exactly. And I think that's something that what's the best way to put it? I mean, I think if you have an attorney that really has an understanding of where the case could go from the jump, as opposed to the intake model where just the intake guy hands it off to the paralegal, who hands it off to the attorney, who hands it off to the accountant, and
yeah.
that's it.
Wow.
As opposed to it more of like a pinwheel is what we do. Is I am along the ride the whole time, even
Love
if it
that.
goes to trial. So it's one of those things and that was the benefit of working at other firms. Honestly, I mean, there were great things that happen in those assembly lines. I think you have people that are very good at that portion. I mean, people that I have working for my firm now came from that, and we've implemented some of that concept and that idea, but keep our caseloads low just to make sure
Okay.
there's a lot of one-on-one interaction with the clients, even with me.
Tell me more about that, keeping your caseloads low.
Yeah, I mean, not most, there are a lot of law firms out there, the larger ones, that their caseloads for attorneys are very high. And it's more of a business decision, and I understand it from that perspective,
Yep.
but the clients don't see that. And so you get a lot of clients that kind of get lost amongst the shuffle, not because the people can't do it, not because the attorneys don't care, it's just they don't have the time. And it's almost like that historical feeling that where you see the public defender, he's like 300 cases, he doesn't even
Yeah.
know the names of half their clients. And some of the
Right.
personal injury firms are run just like that. And so my concept, or I mean, I feel like a lot of people now, but what we do is keep those caseloads low, cap the caseloads at a certain number that the paralegal can handle and really know the cases. Same thing with the attorneys. It's not like I have any concept or want any of the attorneys getting more than, 100 cases to their name. I mean, that sounds like a lot, but that's a
That's
low
a
number for a lot of firms.
wow. 100 cases. That's amazing.
Yeah.
That
Yeah. I mean, there's a couple large law firms out here and out in the Southwest that their attorneys are running 300 cases.
really
Yeah.
like. Oh my gosh, I can't even imagine what those calendars look like, man.
Yeah,
Like,
you can't. And that's the thing. And that's kind of the point, and that's the point is it's a great way to make money, but it's one of those things that it's easy to overlook cases.
yeah, yeah. Wow, there's just so much about like the personal injury world but I think that's good because I love how you say you're a pinwheel. I think that's a huge, you're from the beginning all the way through. Do you know like how many attorneys do you have working for you or
So right now it's actually just me.
it's
Um,
just you? Okay.
yeah, it's just me. So we've been open. This is our third full year. So we just
Okay.
started our third full
Congratulations.
year. Thank you. Yeah. So the hope is to bring on more now. We've been growing consistently. No, we have no funding. I have no backing. It was
Right.
just
Well, I
me.
wanted to ask you about that. Like,
Yeah.
you started 3 years ago, and like, can you tell us like how you start your firm without like a big backing, to launch the
Yeah.
thing?
Yeah. I mean, for me, I left my last firm with one case, and it wasn't a big case. It was a chiropractical. I mean, it's not a case that makes or breaks your career by any means. And I basically gave myself 45 days to at least support myself and my kids at that point,
Okay.
for a month. I just was like, can I do it for a month? Let me do 2 months. And then it just kept rolling. And how I did it was just me and a computer in the beginning. I would network, I would talk to providers, other law firms was a big thing. I approached quite a few law firms, um, medium to large size law firms that I would just get their kind of, their conflict cases. Um, Even approached firms that I knew in Nevada, to send
Okay.
me Arizona work to see there. And then once one case turned into two cases, and I got into a couple partnerships here in town, it's really helped the growth. I mean, within the first 6 months, my firm had about 150 cases.
It's amazing. How do you freak out when you have that many, like, and you're the only
Yes.
attorney? You're like,
Oh, yes. Yeah. And at that point, I was the only employee. So that was it. So I hit this crazy, I don't know if it was 150 at that point, but it was a large number. And I knew that's when I mean, I had to hire after opening 6 months. I mean, I had to hire two
Yeah.
paralegals just to kind of keep everything clean.
So that's interesting. And before, so how do you do that? Like, what's your process? Like when you have all these cases and it's
hmm
yourself, like, are you calendaring like crazy? Or you setting reminders on your phone? Or you're like, okay, I got this is a
Yeah.
deadline. Like, what are you doing?
Yeah, I mean, my room or office or whatever you want to call it at that point looked a lot like those old detective shows. Like you had, the
Yeah.
yarn coming from picture to picture. And no, I mean, I was all over the place all the time, and it was one of those things where I had to calendar on my phone everything. I had to do like basically reminders just to check a file, just to make sure or follow up on this, and everything was very immediate. And then once I just got to the point in terms of time, I didn't have enough time in the day.
Like, were you in
Uh,
court? Like, how do you do court appearances if you have to like have a motion or something?
yeah, so I mean, fortunately, I guess the only good thing that came out of COVID is the courts
Yes.
being okay with this.
You had six computers and you're on Zoom
Yeah.
with like six different judges.
Oh, it would be, there was a couple days I had, phone conference here, and then 8 minutes later I was on like a Zoom call or
Okay.
then a Zoom deposition in the afternoon. And so it definitely taught me how to time manage and really put what's important ahead of a lot of things. And then what I found was then I was spending so much time working the cases, I wasn't marketing anymore, really
Okay.
marketing the firm and networking. So it was this constant balance. And
Right,
once
right.
I hired most of my staff, it helped me kind of expand from there.
So a couple things, Travis. Like,
Yeah.
I'm happy to introduce you to like anybody you see on Lawyer Stories. That like you, hey, that person looks cool. Like maybe I could work with that person. Like maybe Benny knows that person. Happy to make like a warm introduction. That's the first thing. Secondly, all you got to do is just like hit me up. So secondly, you were a business law minor at
Yeah.
UNLV, right? Like I don't know what your major was there, but
Business management.
okay. So did that help you like when it was time for? I know it's undergrad. All right, we all know undergrad, like whatever, but did that help at all when you started to like build a business?
Yeah, I think at the very least, I mean, you're right. It's undergrad. It's not a master's by any means, and I think business school can only teach you so much anyway. Um, but I really learned that I like the idea of managing people, and I like the concept of managing people in
Okay.
undergrad. And then, like I said, seeing my dad, run his own business for a while, and my mom was an assistant principal, so she managed people and teachers, and
Okay.
so I saw that and I enjoyed that idea and trying to better people or better something, and growing up playing sports, and it's just kind of this competitive mindset, and it was kind of business kind of put that all together for me. So it's really, yeah, it's something that really helped. It gave a good foundation and something where I wasn't completely clueless going into running a business. But I'll tell you, I mean, you learn a lot the hard way. That's
You
for
learn a
sure.
lot quick. So you said you had to take on two paralegals really quickly. Did you have to like get a payroll system and like start doing that right away? Like, was that like super foreign to you?
Yeah, terrifying.
Was
Yeah,
that?
so
Yeah.
I it was terrifying. It was one
Yeah.
of those things I'd never had to do before. I mean, just starting your own firm or just doing your own business. That you first time you have to pay somebody else, or at least you're not getting the check every week from somebody else. It's a weird
Right.
concept to really absorb. But yeah, no, I mean, I'm very lucky, especially in today's day and age. I mean, you can get an app for everything, right? And so you can do QuickBooks payroll, and that's kind of what I ended up doing.
Oh,
So as long
interesting.
as
Okay.
just utilizing apps or programs and services that really help the day to day and kind of smooth out everything.
Okay. QuickBooks has a payroll? That's interesting.
Yeah, yeah. No, I didn't know either.
Yeah. All
So
right. Probably help. All right. So, what do you like best about being your own boss?
yeah, time, just my time.
Yeah.
I love having the not only control of my time and having the ability to be a present parent, which helps. I mean, with
Yeah.
four kids, and so I
Amazing.
want to be there for them. And so not only that, it's really just controlling your own destiny. I just like the idea of, hey, I think this can work for the business, or hey, I think this can work in personal injury. I could just try it.
Yeah.
And so it's really just I hate to say creative control. I wouldn't consider myself the most creative person in the world, but creative control. Just really have a concept and really run with it.
So, like, how did you come up with Valley Injury Law? And I like your logo, by the way. It's really cool.
Thank you.
Your Instagram and just everything is really sweet. I like it.
No, thanks, man. No, I appreciate it. It was one of those names by itself I didn't think was even available, to be honest with you. It was very easy. Um, Phoenix calls itself the Valley. Las
Yep.
Vegas calls itself the Valley. So both jurisdictions and at least both hometowns that I have Valley. So I was just like, Valley, and then just injury law. And I didn't want my name on it. It was one of those things where I didn't want it to be about me.
Interesting.
I wanted it to be more than that and more of just a brand, one, but also two, when I hire more attorneys or as we expand, it's not like they're coming to the Travis Meltzer law firm. They're coming to Valley Injury Law. They're like joining a group, and it's not just like, oh, okay, Travis's name's on the wall, so you got to talk to him.
Right.
There's nothing to do with that.
I love that. It's super cool. I like the whole concept and the whole art behind the Instagram and that whole thing. Tell us a little bit about more about your law firm, like Valley Injury Law, Phoenix, Arizona. So you have some people in an office. So you do rent office space.
Yeah. So we have two. I mean, we have our main address. If you Google us in Arizona, that's the address that I take all the depositions at and things like that. Those are where I go day to day. And then what I did is I got a Regis office that was just convenient for my staff, and it was just pretty central by the airport. And so it's been able to really grow with us, which has been really nice, as opposed to really having this commitment to a building for a certain amount of time. Plus the clients, the expectation's not there for all clients anymore, where it used to be, where you had to be at this big, prestigious, gaudy office. I mean, the client's expectations aren't the same as they once were. And I think it's even an advantage to us because we go to where the clients are.
Yeah. So you said you were the only attorney, but like, what's your support staff like?
Yeah. So right now I have three paralegals.
Wow.
One, I call her she's like a utility player for me. And then she's kind of an assistant. I have a legal assistant, utility lady.
Yep.
That's the best way to put her. And then also, I have a intake business development.
Oh,
rep.
Cool.
So,
okay. Very good. So what types of people are coming to you, Travis? Like what accidents are you seeing? Excuse me. Like developing this little cough overnight. It's been a crazy week. So I'm going to start that question again.
Yeah.
What types of clients or prospective clients are coming to you for help?
Yeah. So it's mostly car accidents is the big one, and it's from all over town. But we still do, slip and falls we get a lot of. I've kind of, those are tough cases, but I've made it very clear to clients and then also other law firms that we do slip and falls. So if some firms don't, we'll usually get them. So it's either come straight to us or they'll refer them. And a lot of that I think comes from my past defending casinos, actually, in a lot of cases. So
nice. Okay.
Because I'm licensed in Nevada too. So
cool. Okay.
Yeah. So I did a lot of defense work for casinos and for bodily injury type cases, but we do dog bites and really anything. I'll take a look at anything. And that's one of the things that we pride ourselves on is we don't usually say no just based on whatever, the lead or the email or something we get from somebody. We always try to dive in a little bit before.
Sure. And do they always get you? Eventually after the intake, are they always able to speak to you?
Oh yeah. Yeah. And they can text me, call me, anything like that. I always let all the staff know if they ever want to talk. Just put it on my calendar. It's super easy. I'm really available. And anytime I talk to clients, they can text me once they come through the gateway, so to speak. I'll usually, my direct line is a text form too. So I allow clients to do that. And we have I think we talked about it a little bit, but we have an app that all clients can download now that goes directly to their file. And they can actually text their file and we'll get notifications there.
Tell us about the app. Tell us what it's called and what you do.
Yeah, so Case Status is what it's called.
Cool.
So it's a free commercial for them. Case Status, really good. It just plugs into our case management software. and it allows for your clients to download an app, and then they can talk to your staff, talk to the team. They can see where their cases are. And then every time the status is updated or they go to the next level or whatever your firm calls it, they automatically get a message saying, hey, guess what? We just sent out your demand.
Okay.
Look for a call from us in 45 days. If you have any questions, let us know. So what
That's
it's
really
great
cool.
about it is it gives the client the feeling that they're involved in every step, and they can really
Okay.
see without having to, reach out every couple weeks.
Now, is that something you came up with, or is that just out there?
That's just out there.
Okay.
Yeah, it's just out there. Yeah, no,
But
but
you're using it, and technology is important. People want those. People want to know like what's going on with their case. I mean, I think communication is almost everything for these clients. You know,
yeah.
you
Oh
gotta
yeah, and I mean, because most people have no clue what I mean, you don't have any clue what you're doing, and especially it's one of those things where most clients only have to see, go to a personal injury attorney once, twice,
yeah,
maybe 2 times in their
that's
life, kind
right.
of thing. So there's nothing to compare it to other than online reviews or
Yeah,
asking a friend. So it's really it's good to always leave kind of like that good taste in a client's mouth kind
definitely.
of thing as it's going through it. But yeah, communication is huge, and I'm sure any practice will tell you that, family, anything. As long as if you communicate with your clients, even if what you're telling them is not good, at least they will always feel like they were always included
Right,
on it.
right. And so, like, being in this industry for a while, like, what do you think? Like, it makes a good, like, the qualities makes a good personal injury attorney.
Yeah, so I think for the number one thing is to always keep it human is the best way to put it. Where yes, I talked about, the app and automation, things like that, but always understanding that the case is somebody, is a person, and it's
Right,
always, and especially, with unfortunately in personal injury across the country, it's one of the major, I mean, obviously marketing, and it's monetized, and the cases are the commodity, unfortunately. And
right.
I think that's how people, a lot of these larger firms and a lot of these firms in general will see them. And I think making sure that you always remind yourself, and I'm sure I've had some moments in my past, but remind yourself that these are people,
Yeah,
and they're angry at you, if they're mad or something like that, they're not angry at you. I mean, it's just they were dealt a shit hand today,
right, right, right,
and so that's just kind of what it is. And so I think understanding that it's their case, while yes, you are helping them, it's their case. Like that is their life.
right.
So
Totally. I mean, you're meeting people in their most vulnerable state. Like you said, they probably, hopefully, they only have to see you once in their life. You know, but
yeah,
if that goes well and they love how you communicate with them and you handle it nice, they're gonna tell their friends about it.
yeah, exactly.
In
And
case they
it's
get into an accident or whatnot.
right. And not to say what we do is it's an emergency service. It's one of those things where we are not, nobody needs a personal injury attorney until they're in an accident, until there's an emergency.
Right, right.
So it's just we just have to be available and make sure that especially the public remembers that we're people too. We're here for them, and that we will do our best for them.
Yeah, good. So any memorable cases? I know they're all memorable. I know they're all
Yeah.
important clients. I get it, but like anything that's maybe your first case or like whatnot, anything memorable,
Yeah.
you don't have to,
No, I know. Yeah, I mean, there've been a few. I mean, the one that sticks out just because it was really the beginning of my law firm. Um, when you open your firm, I think I'm sure you've talked to enough attorneys where the biggest question is where's that next case coming from? Where's the next client? And so I was taking risks, I guess. I would take cases that nobody wanted and things like that, especially in the beginning. It's like I would try. Well, I mean, what's the worst that's going to happen? And nothing. And so one of the things that really happened once was this young woman got dropped by every 3, 4 law firms before. She
wow.
was driving, made a left out of a parking lot, and she got hit pretty hard. She got T-boned, and it was her fault. I mean, that's why she went out there. But it was one of those weird ones where somebody was turning and swerved around them and hit her on the driver's
Okay.
side. And so all the firms either wouldn't sign her or just dropped her because the insurance company would deny. But she broke her hip. She's 24 years old. And in Arizona, we have what's called comparative fault. So even if she was 99% at fault, we can claim that one. And
Okay.
so I really pushed that. And long story short, ended up being a pretty good, I mean, it was a $250,000 case for her.
Wow.
So it was, yeah. So it was a really
Wait,
great.
so how does that work? Comparative fault? So she was,
So her damages were high. So she had, hip trauma and fractured hip, and she was 24, 25. And unfortunately, there's all these studies where your life expectancy goes down about 10 to 15 years once you have a broken hip in
Wow.
your medical history. So I used that information in that report to increase the value of her case. I mean, she was fine. Honestly, after it, she was very fortunate. Didn't require surgery, didn't have to treat so much. And I think it's because of her age. But yeah, it just kind of turned around where we were able to show that the case value was X. And even though her fault was pretty good, 50-ish, we'll say 50%,
Yep.
then, we could say on the best day, the case is going to be worth $1 million. So let's give, I don't know, just throwing numbers out there, but that's kind of how it ends up working. So let's give us a quarter of what the value of the case would have been if she was not at fault at all.
Okay.
So it's an interesting thing, but it allows for more cases to be viable.
Wow. It's unbelievable.
Yeah.
Anything interesting you're working on now?
Yeah. Let's see. Couple cases. I mean, there's crazy cases all over the place.
Any of the 5,000 cases you're working on now? Interesting.
Yeah. I mean, there's a big one. I mean, we have one where this poor guy was left in a burning van. He was it's like a movie. So he was left in a burning van as he was transported from his home to, it's one of those meta vans that will fill your health insurance and take people that don't have cars to their doctor's appointments.
Okay.
Van caught on fire, and the poor guy was locked in it. So it's turned into this whole, he's alive. I don't know how, but he's alive, and significant, lung damage and all that kind of thing. So it's one of those things where you watch a movie and, you watch Law and Order or whatever the legal shows now, and you say, well, that case, it's not real. And I'm sure it happened once. So
yeah, that's amazing.
That was one of them.
All right. So you're doing that now. Huh? Okay.
Right now. It's active.
So do you take referrals? Like what's your, how does that work?
Yeah. So no, I mean, referrals are a big part of what we do behind the scenes.
Okay.
And that's how we've really spiked the growth in the last couple of years for the firm, where we've really developed a really good, I call it a regional referral network for us.
Okay.
So I've cold called and cold emailed and cold LinkedIn or whatever you want to call it, firms in Las Vegas, Southern California, Utah, Colorado, and basically said, hey, we don't have anybody in your jurisdiction. Why don't we just get into somewhat of an agreement where you send us the Arizona cases and we'll send you the Colorado ones and vice versa. So It's really helped where we've developed significant partners through the Southwest. And that's really helped our growth and really helped just kind of our reach for these clients too.
Yeah.
So it's been nice.
That's awesome. Tell us about your process when like a prospective client calls.
Yeah. So it'll either go straight to me or my intake business development director there. So she will either talk to them, and she'll have to talk to them if it's Spanish speaking. I don't speak Spanish. I know, I understand it, but I just don't. I don't speak it. So if it's Spanish speaking clients, we can do that too. I mean, we have 2 paralegals that speak Spanish, and so we're well equipped to handle that. But when the prospective client comes in, either I'll talk to them right away and just say, okay, it's my decision. I'll sign it, and then explain the process, give them and then introduce them, basically the soft handoff to the paralegal that will be working on their case. And so we try really hard to make everything an interaction more than just a process. It's probably the best way to put it.
Okay.
I really try
like that.
Yeah, to make it more personable. It's really because it's something, it's not, I wouldn't say it's easy, but it's something that I think is easy to maintain as long as you know what takes away from it. When people are too busy or people are frustrated, which kind of goes hand in hand in what I do. So we always have a person at every level that they can speak to, and I'm always available. That's what I really try hard to do. And
I love that. So even when you say you're always available,
yeah,
is that like an entrepreneurial thing? Like it's your business, it's your baby. Like you're gonna be there for people. I mean, I know, like maybe you won't text somebody back at 2 a.m. when you get up to go to the bathroom, right. But like but is it just like a nature of an entrepreneur to just like be there all the time to like want to encourage the business and grow it and that sort of thing?
I think it has to be.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, I think it's one of those it's a positive side effect. It's one of those
Yes.
things
I
where
like
if you
that.
want success and you want something, anything in life, really. I mean, but if you want to do something, I think you just have to really commit to it. And if that means being available, checking your email, like if I can't sleep, instead of, before I had my own business, I would play a game or, whatever, read a book or
Yeah.
listen to a podcast. Now, if I'm awake, if I wake up and can't sleep, I'm checking emails. I'm, scheduling posts for the social media in the next day. I'm
Yep.
responding to emails. It's just, I think it's just more of a, yeah, I think it's just more of an effect than anything.
That's awesome. Tell us about like your perspective on court. I know this sounds weird, right? But a lot of PI attorneys like settle. They want to get the best settlement. Like, would you say that you're just like you'd be ready to go to court for any one of your clients?
Yes. Yeah, I would. Yeah, and I would probably be ready to go to court for clients that no other firms would. So
Okay, that's
it's,
good.
and I would tell them. I mean, it's one of those things where I am lucky enough to have the bandwidth to do that. And at least what I've tried really hard to do is, even if the case isn't great, I tell the clients that and just be like, look, this is not going to make or break case, but I will file for you. And I think that's the only way that you would end up getting any kind of result on this
Yeah,
specific file. Now, obviously, are there cases that I would prefer to file on than others? Yeah, absolutely. But I'll do them. I'll do it for anybody. And what's so great is I don't hand it off. And the clients know that from the beginning. I don't even
right,
increase my fee if we file.
right.
So it's just stays at the third, it doesn't move, and most firms will bump it up. So it's just one of those things where there's less risk for the client to do it, other than time, I guess. And there's, in theory, I mean, more upside for me.
So a lot of firms bump up their percentage when they think they're gonna have to go to court, right? So it'll be like
Yeah,
like a 35% or something like that.
yeah, 35 to 40% is usually
Wow.
kind of the standard. But no, we keep it because I know the costs go up too,
Right.
and that's something that we front, but look to get reimbursed through the settlement. So if my 33 jumps to a 40 and then the costs go from $100 to $10,000, then the clients end up having almost little to no chance of seeing much.
Got it. So, do you have to take those costs out of the 30% that you get, or is that on top of the 30% usually?
So the way it's on top of, most firms
Okay.
do it on top of.
That's on top, yeah.
Yeah.
So what advice do you have for like a new personal injury attorney?
Yeah. So I think go in knowing that you don't know much is
Okay.
probably the best way to put it. Is don't
Yeah.
think that you know a lot about what you're going to do, because especially with personal injury, beyond the law, beyond, okay, here we're going to argue negligence, we're going to do this. I think, law school doesn't prep you for those hard conversations with parents who lost a child, or somebody who lost a loved one, or
Right.
just somebody who broke their leg and they were a professional soccer player and now they can never do that again. So that it's something that know you're going to be tested and know that it's going to suck for a little bit. And it's really just understanding how to react in those ways and learning how to not react in those ways by reacting poorly or just not handling a situation one way, because it's a person. It's that is the kind of the variable in every one of these cases. I mean, you can have a million rear end cases and you're gonna have a million different results. And so it just depends on the people, and really that's it. So I mean, if you're looking to get into personal injury, it is very rewarding, both, I mean, emotionally, really, you really get to help people, but know that there's a lot of struggles that nobody really wants to talk about.
Right. Totally. So tell us how someone can have success like without a huge marketing budget.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's understanding the market, it's understanding the people in the market, and that's really knowing how to network and really push, kind of what you guys are doing. With Lore Store, it's one of those things where just understanding that networking requires people. It
Yeah.
requires a personal effect, and it's very easy to just say I'm with this firm or that firm, and that should immediately tell you who I am. And
Right.
it doesn't. And also
True.
too, it's the grassroots marketing. I mean, it was me, and once I had my staff, and we were doing, I mean, there were a couple days I did 3 lunches. I would do a breakfast and 3 lunches to network and market, whether it's with other law
A
firms
lot
or
of food, man.
a lot of food. I don't know. I mean, I gained a little weight that first year. And so, but no, it was one of those things where just kind of like what we talked about a little bit before, just really committing to the growth. And I think people see it. And then again, I mean, with what we do and with anybody that has a client-driven business, once you do well for one person, that person will not stop talking about it. And that's, and especially if it's life-changing money. I mean, it's one of those things where money makes people, I mean, obviously money's nice for people's lives, but when they see more in one day than they saw in the last 3 years, it's a big, they just won't stop talking. So once one client turned into 4 clients, and it's really just kind of how it snowballs. As long as you keep doing a good job and make it, like I said, a positive experience for somebody who's going through arguably one of the worst things in their lives.
Totally. No, I get that. And so I think you just kind of answered like how important is networking in the modern legal space, and what, like, how can lawyer stories help you? And if you want to talk about networking in the legal space more, you can. That'd be great.
Oh yeah, no, I mean, so with lawyer stories and, you know, like a group like this and a community like this, it's great just to see one, like-minded people, right, that understand the importance of national networking. It's something that I've tried really hard to harp with my friends and talk to my friends, even outside of the legal space, but I know a little bit more about the legal space than anything else, so I'll talk about that one.
Yeah.
And so, no, I don't. But so, you know, when it comes to what we do, you look at the bigger firms. Best way to do it, you look at a huge firm and, you know, the nationwide personal injury firms. And how they grow is because they have not all of them, but they have a 1-800 number that they send out. And then what they do is it goes through the computer based on the zip code and things like that. And once that zip code hits a certain amount, they then enter that, you know, they enter that market that we're calling their name, calling Valley Injury Law, we're calling this. But before that, what they were doing is they were taking these calls and giving them somewhere else. And so why shouldn't the nation's medium-sized small firms that are all doing personal injury, why shouldn't we all be part of a network?
Yeah.
That it's like, you know, hey, I got a case that this injury happened in Arizona and I saw Travis on Lawyer Stories, or hey, I saw Cindy on Lawyer Stories in Florida. It makes the availability, and it also just makes you look better to your client because you don't look dumb. If somebody calls you, be like, hey, do you know somebody in Florida? Absolutely. Let me get you on the phone with Benny tomorrow.
Yeah. Oh, I love that view. I love that point of view. I'm going to, we'll talk after, but I get it 100%. Like the whole, you know, like I said, I'm happy to introduce you to anybody you see on there. Like if I know them, I'd love to set the email up and be like, so-and-so meet this person. Like I think there's some, you know, you guys could have some like synergy or whatnot. Or,
no, I appreciate that. Yeah. Same goes if you think anybody, you know, that I would work well with, I'm more than happy to talk to anybody. I will rarely say no. It's just it's more of a matter of just lining up schedules.
That's awesome. Travis, is there anything else you want to tell the Lawyer Stories community? Any other advice? Is there anything we left out?
I mean, the only thing I could say is just be yourself. I think people feel like they have to put on a face or a mask or some kind of brand or image. And I think the best way to stand out is just be yourself, especially in this community, in this market, because it's very easy to get lost amongst the billboards, and especially with what I do. And so as long as you're yourself and stay true to that, I think you'll really, and you'll feel better about what you do.
I love that advice, man. And I know this sounds crazy, but like I've tried to do that in like I've always just tried to do that. And I think it works. Like people naturally just go to you. And if they don't want to go to you, like you don't want to be with them anyway, right?
Yeah, no, and you know, treat every community like it's, you know, it's a relationship. It really is. And that's like you would treat, I mean, obviously don't treat everybody like you would treat your wife or your husband or whatever, but understand that every interaction that you want to develop and build is a relationship, and that takes work.
No, for sure. Yeah. Well, sorry, is there anything, any other things you want? Well, hey, like that's great advice, man. You know, awesome story. You're doing great things for the people out there, Arizona, Las Vegas. Thanks for coming on today, Travis Meltzer.
Yeah, thank you.
Valley Injury Law. Stay right there. Everybody else, thanks for tuning in. And wherever you are in the world today, enjoy yourselves.